Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are. If you're not watching it now on Saturday, if you're watching us from the future, that's okay as well. I'm very happy to have here with us for our Saturday, a busy day. We're going to have a lot of things, a lot of great things happening today. So I have here our very special guest, Lucy Crichton. She's going to talk about the whole child. And Lucy has worked in ELT in Brazil for over 25 years as a teacher and teacher trainer. As a materials writer, she's been involved in different projects from Macmillan, National Geographic Learning, and the Learning Factory. She's passionate about education. She loves working with children, with teenagers. So, Lucy, over to you.
Thank you, Tiago. Thank you very much. So I will just put up my slides and you let me know if you can see everything okay.
Yeah, perfect.
Is that good?
Sure.
Well, great. So let's get started. Let me put the timer on so I keep on track. First of all, I'd like to say thank you very much for being here. I know that we are at the end of a very busy school year. I myself am in the middle of writing reports and organising everything. So thank you for being here. I hope that you enjoy the next 40 minutes and you have the chance to ask questions that hopefully I will be able to answer at the end. Thank you also for this lovely opportunity, BrELT. I love what you're doing, and let's keep on spreading the word. I love Brazil, and I love what I do here, and so being able to share ideas and experiences is very great, very gratifying. So the whole child. I wanted to speak about this subject because it's something that we have to work quite hard at to be able to do, to see the whole child and not just to concentrate on the cognitive learning. But I'm going to start with a couple of quotes just to get us on track. So the first one is a Steiner quote. You know that I like him very much. And he says, "You'll not be good teachers if you focus only on what you do and not upon who you are." And we know that when we come into the classroom, especially with young learners and our teens, our students see who we are. And so as we work towards good teaching practices, we also need to work on ourselves, not just as teachers, but as people, and to try and be the best version of ourselves, right? And the other one, a teacher who is not fully involved in self-education cannot really educate children. This is from a book called The Millennium Child. I'm going to give you right at the end a little book list of inspirational material that I've used to put this workshop together. So you see, we have a big job to do to teach children and to bring out what's fantastic about them in a calm and in a safe and in a beautiful way. And you can see as well here that teachers' beliefs about what learning is will affect everything that we do in the classroom, whether these beliefs are implicit or explicit. So even if a teacher acts spontaneously or from habit, such actions are nevertheless prompted by a deep-rooted belief that may never have been articulated or made explicit. And I like this very much because I think that as we reflect on ourselves as teachers, there are so many things that we do that are kind of unconscious in our classroom, and they do come from our whole background, our lives, and how we were as children ourselves. So it's important for us to keep on, this lifelong learning, to keep on analysing ourselves, to keep on seeing if we're on the right track, invite other teachers into our classroom to give us feedback on our practices too. So that's, I think, an important point. So two of the main things I think that that deeply affect childhood development is in the environment and relationships. Yeah, and I think these days the environment is taking a big toll on childhood development because children aren't getting out into the world. They're not close to nature, they're not sensing it, they're not following it in their lives through the seasons, through the rising of the sun and the setting of the sun. You know, everything's gone a little bit haywire. And I think that we can do very simple things to bring this awareness back to our classrooms. Even if we teach a very big classroom in the middle of a city, there are little things that we can do. Just give you a couple of examples. One thing that I like to do, can you see this? I like to bring in a little piece of, you know, something from outside, a flower, or, you know, here's something I've got as well.
We can only see the slides, Lucy.
Oh, you can only see the slides. Okay, so I'll describe it. So a vase with a flower. At the moment, I've got a little dried twig with some little tiny Christmas decorations. I can also put a cloth over my teacher's table, a coloured piece of cloth. You know, any tiny little detail that you can bring into your classroom is going to make a difference. It's going to excite curiosity in your students, and it's also going to unconsciously tell them that you care about the environment that you teach in. So that's also very important. And then relationships, you know, the relationships that their children have at home with their family members, with their brothers and sisters, with their grannies and grandpas. This is also intrinsic to childhood development, and the quality of that, the quality of, you know, their daily movements and, you know, that the house they live in and how they get from home to school, all those things affect childhood development in a really, really deep way. And I think we need to study that a little bit more if possible. So I'm going to show you some classrooms now, and it's mainly for us to discuss and reflect on the spaces, our learning spaces, environments that we teach in. Obviously, this, for example, you can see it's very European, perhaps, type preschool, primary space, perhaps Reggio Emilia inspired, or maybe slightly Montessori, a little bit Waldorf. But what strikes me about this is that you can see that there's plenty of light that's coming into this classroom. You can see there are plants. You can see that the furniture has been organized so that children can reach their materials, and it's, you know, it's sort of physically a friendly space for them. There are different learning spaces. They can sit on the floor. They can read quietly in a corner. This is a beautiful space, and this is a space I would aspire to as well in my school. But even if I don't have anything that looks like this, there are little tiny details that I can do to make a difference. This classroom is probably an American classroom, or perhaps a British classroom. It's a primary classroom. We can see here in the foreground perhaps some remedial reading going on. We can see that children are working autonomously. There's another helper at the back. But what strikes me about this classroom is that it is a very busy classroom, you know, and no wonder this little boy here on the right is, you know, yawning, and there's a lot of information there, you know, and I think that that can be like a sort of pollution sometimes for children, yeah? Can you see that there are some tennis balls on the legs of the chairs? I imagine that's to stop them making a screechy noise. But I think it's always interesting when we look at other people's classrooms to reflect back on our own. This is a typical Brazilian classroom. It's for slightly older children, teenagers, but it's what we see. I've visited a lot of schools all around Brazil, and I've seen all sorts of environments. But this, I think, is like a padrão. You know, I think we've got this type of classroom in a lot of schools here in Brazil. So there is a focus on the practical and the hygiene of classrooms and the safety, which I can completely understand. But we do have here, we have natural light, but we don't have any vision to the outside. We have a lot of students here sort of, you know, all squashed together, looking at each other's backs. But what strikes me more about this classroom is that there is nothing personal to tell you who are those students. There's no work on the walls. There's nothing that will tell us about what subject these students are studying. There are no visual stimulation for them at all, no plants, nothing. So what would I do? I would try to change the seating arrangement. I would have a couple of posters up on the wall. I could perhaps make a pretend curtain out of TNT one day, just stick it around that those two windows to make it a little bit homely. I would try and do something to change it once in a while. And this one, which is vastly different to this one, but I think this one is even richer if you think about it. They've at least got nature around them, the sound of nature, the wind in the trees. It's a very poor classroom. I don't actually see any girls there either, but it's just for us to think about, you know, what is richness in a classroom? What is it exactly? And then I think I've got a picture. Yes, here on the left is my classroom, so I have these tables where they can sit in twos, but I can also change the classroom setup. And wooden floors also make it really nice for students to sit down. Now here on the right, you can see we were doing a course in the pedagogy of Reggio Emilia from the north of Italy. We had a lovely workshop leader in who was teaching us that even with that simple classroom there that you see on the left, if we change a few bits and pieces, we can have different learning stations. And I think that's wonderful too. And I learned a lot doing that course because, you know, not to always have our classroom in the same layout every week, every day, every term. Do something different if possible. All right, let's move on. So yes, a tiny human gesture in your classroom can go a very, very long way. Good. Hope everybody's following me okay. This was also, this is a lovely thing. It's a mud kitchen. And for those schools that are still building their school areas or who have a little backyard, this I would highly recommend. Because children, like I said, they need to get into their environment. They need to be able to take off their shoes and socks, get a little bit dirty, you know, touch nature without having, you know, without being worried about it. It's very important for them. Also, you can see that we have real kitchen equipment. So we don't need plastic pots and plastic rolling pins because mums and dads don't use plastic rolling pins and we use real stuff. So a lot of the playthings for children, for those of you as well who've got young children at home, a lot of playthings can be just everyday objects, especially, you know, for the under threes. So I really like that too. So here's one of the questions, and, you know, hopefully we can briefly discuss this right at the end, but how do you see, you know, what do you think about childhood these days? What is it that worries you most? So let me know, ask me a question about that at the end. And hopefully I'll be able to answer it because I'd like to know if you are as worried as I am and how we can make a difference, right? That's the point. So this is one of the things that worries me slightly is that the cognitive seems to take a higher place over everything these days in our children's lives, while we forget the physical, social, emotional, moral and spiritual part of the child. There's so much busyness. There are so many activities for children. There's not time for them to be children. There's not enough time for them to play freely in an unstructured way. So we've got work to do, right? What about the things that parents used to say to us? They used to say, don't take things that aren't yours, clean up your own mess, share everything, don't hit people. Now, my dad was a Scottish man and a very strict dad. And he would say things like, children should be seen and not heard, or go away and have a wash or do something. But even when he said that, he would have this little sparkle in his eye, sort of mischievous sparkle to play with us, to play in words with my sisters and I. But parents were much stricter, I think, and much more straightforward. And then now, the contrast to that is that we see parents anxious. We see them saying things like, he walked before he was 1. She's so intelligent. She knows all her numbers. She can read already. And a typical thing that people say in Portuguese, muito esperto. But, what is that intelligence when the child is, stressed out? And everything has to be, anticipated. And this is what worries me. And it happens such a lot. So we've got to try and get closer to our school community and our families to alert them to the damage that this does to children. Why the hurry? There's time. Yeah. Oh, there's one more. He could write his name at 3. So I love this. The child has everything it needs already within it in order to unfold its beauty. So why are we stripping back the petals of this bud to see the flower before it does it for itself? And that's the thing that we need to do with children, Give them the right environment where they can unfold for themselves. They can discover who they are piece by piece, rather than, getting so anxious about their future that their childhood is not, protected. This is another thing. Children who begin kindergarten with early skills such as early maths, literacy, attention-related skills are more likely to have later academic achievement, while those with fewer or less developed skills are more likely to attain lower levels of education or be unemployed as adults. I don't agree with that. Let me know if you agree or don't agree with that, we need to see as well more studies, and I'm going to show you a book in a minute that actually has a study to show how this anxiety and how this sort of media push towards having genius children is completely damaging, and it has to stop. I really don't like it. The emphasis on academic rigor is so disproportionate that students experience high levels of social emotional stress, boredom, and disconnection to school and the community. And we see that often. We see that in our students' behaviour in the classroom, and we also see it in their faces. It's not a vital energy. It's not the energy that we should see on a child's face. They're absolutely exhausted. And, if we believe in what we're doing, we're never just teaching English in the classroom, we're doing so much more. So if we believe in that, we have to try and, work together with our school and with our school community to improve, this stress that children are going through. This is another thing as well that I was doing a bit of research about this. Why are children so tired? Because one, they're doing too much, but the basic one is that they're not getting enough sleep. Because putting a child to bed, as those of you who know, who have children, putting a child to bed is very time consuming, and you have to be very patient, right? Look at the statistics here. I mean, look at the average sleep that a child should have, and think about the students in your classroom. They're not getting enough, and how can we alert parents? Perhaps we can show them a graph like this. Perhaps we should have more workshops where we can get close to parents to say, look, if you want your child to be happy and healthy, you've got to put them to bed at the right hour. You've got to prepare them for that sleep. You have to, read them a bedtime story, get rid of TVs in bedrooms. It's an awful thing. Take away all the electronic things, So you can see here, 9 to 11 hours for a first grader. It's just not happening, is it? All right. These are the children we want to see. The children with the rosy cheeks, with the, with the joy in their hearts, with the leveza, with the creativity and the curiosity that they should have. And if they're not getting basic sleep, if they're not getting decent food, we're not going to see that. So we've got a lot of work to do, right? Okay, this was the book I was talking about. It has been written by early learning experts. It's a book from the UK. It was actually published in 2011. And I'm just going to bring you some of the quotes that I found from it that I thought we ought to, think about. Can you see here at the bottom it says, surely the most important book on children's learning and well-being published this year. I'll give you the little book list at the end, as I've said. But here are some of the things that Kim Simpson is a specialist in Montessori education, and she says, in the worst school situations, young people are neither healthy nor safe, neither engaged nor supported, and certainly not challenged. I mean, and that is a UK school context. We're always looking outside of Brazil. We look a lot to Finland and we look a lot to other European models, which is natural. But there are a lot of things that are happening outside of Europe that aren't necessarily good. And number two, don't necessarily fit in to Brazil. So let's also look at the good things that we're doing. One of the good things that I love living in Brazil and having a school in Brazil is that we can really connect emotionally and physically to our children that we teach. We can kiss and hug them. It's a different thing, and that's a very valuable thing. I think a lot of people, a lot of schools in Finland and Denmark, they don't have that, and that's like one of our biggest gems here in Brazil. The social emotional connection that we can have with our students. So she says questions must be raised about school culture, curriculum, instructional strategies, and family engagement. And I'm going to touch on that just a little bit towards the end of this talk. She also says we need to halt the current belief that we can quicken the release of human potentialities through the child before the child is ready to release them for himself. You see, everything has to slow down. Everything has to, focus on the child and their potential rather than following our national norms of what children should know and, the test mark they should get. We have to try and reform that piece by piece. It's essential that each individual develops a healthy personality with confidence in their own innate goodness. And so how do we do that, I think a lot of the words that we use in the classroom to incentivize our students and to praise them, to praise their goodness, to praise good behavior. We should try and do that much more than underlying the faults and the problems and the difficulties that we have. Yeah, let's always try and look at it from this thing of the cup being half full and not half empty, right? So there's wisdom as well, talking about the school community. I'm thinking about doing next year a day where I invite grannies and grandpas into the classroom, because like a family day, because mums and dads are very busy, and sometimes we hardly ever see them at our schools, but perhaps jumping one generation to grannies and grandpas, or I don't know, aunts or uncles, perhaps we can try and start that missing link between the child that we have and the families that also, where they come from. I just love this image because I think there's a lot of wisdom, and I think we need to include older people, generation into our school communities too. And this thing about free play as well, because it really does teach children to be in control of their lives, teaching them how to solve problems, to get along with others, and also to get over their narcissism, Free play is a gem to learning, and we still think that it's, just recreational. Yeah, we have to break the myth that play is not learning. Yeah, so that's another important thing, I think. Another thing that I have been doing in my school, and it has worked beautifully as well and touches on human potential, is to get some of the older students helping the younger students. Like I have my fifth graders reading stories or helping the first graders. And we don't only see that when we set up a project in the classroom, but we also can see it in the playground. And I think I have a little, yes, here are some pictures of some of the students, different ages, playing together. In our outside area of our school, we don't give them a lot of toys. They've got little pieces of wood. They've got some bit of palm tree garden rubbish. They've got some, they can have cardboard boxes from time to time. We've got a lot of ropes. And so one afternoon at break time, the teacher said to me, "Oh, what's going on over there? You can see in the bottom left, behind those two boys, there is a little group of students there. We have a jabuticaba tree there. And what they were doing was they were making a tirolesa." And the teacher was saying, "Oh gosh, do you think that's a little bit dangerous?" And I'm saying, no, let's see where they take it. So we had first graders, second graders, third, fourth and fifth, all working together to build this tirolesa. And then they got the most agile, an older student of the whole group to test it out. So she had obviously looked at it and thought about if it was safe or not for her, you know. And then she had the rest of the students holding on to a rope. Here she is at the top. She's got her foot in a loop, and she's now going to slide down that rope. Now, on the end of the rope, we have a group of students holding it for her to slip down. What I want you to notice, and I can play it a couple of times because it's very quick, but what I want you to notice is the joy that came out of this tiny thing that they did together as a group. Let's see, I'm going to take out the my earphones so that you can hear the audio.
No audio really. No, unfortunately, I can't hear anything.
No sound.
No.
Well, is the video is it working though? Just
No,
without...
yes, we were able to see it.
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to just play one more time, and then hang on a second. How do I do that? Okay. Basically, there's not a lot. It's more their squeals. But anyway, one of the older boys that's holding the rope, he says, "Go, go," and she slides down, and then there's just a lot of cheering. Really, you can see the way they're jumping up and down. So he says, "Go, go," and then they, yay! Look at them jumping up and down. Yeah. So
Yeah, this time I could hear them.
Yeah. Oh, okay, great. So it's wonderful because she, you know, it's calculation of risk. It's working as a team, but it's just so joyous when they get this possibility to, you know, to do that and to work together. So now I do have another video, but I think I'm going to just carry on now, so that because I've got like 13 minutes left. So you teachers, you know, you are absolutely fundamental to the protection of childhood and childhood development, in the way that you offer your knowledge to them, in the way that you look caringly at each student, and the way that you listen to your students very deeply. And I love this image because I think it is like, you know, it's like a beautiful offering, so that we're not, you know, impondo the things on our students. We're not forcing them to do things too soon. So a little bit then about how we can, and some questions to ask about how we can involve our school community a little bit more. And this is one of the biggest challenges because parents are so busy. Cities are difficult to cross with traffic, so we don't see parents around as much as we want to. So effective schools, they do have a very high level of parental involvement. And so perhaps it's for us to think about ways that we can entice our families into our schools to work together and to open up a better dialogue where parents can collaborate with teachers and schools. So here are some questions. How can I gather and use information from parents to improve my students' classroom experience? Well, one of the things that I like to do right at the beginning when parents come in to see my school is I like to give them a tour of the school, and I incentivate them to come, the mum and the dad and the child who's going to study in the school, so I can see the child as well. So I can show in a very clear way what we're doing here in my school, the methodology we use, the way we teach, the classroom environment, the materials that we use. I like to be as transparent as possible, and I'm very clear about what we expect from the parents as well, and how we want them to get involved and how we want them to come into the school gate and ask questions and work together with us. And the information that we get from parents about their child's pregnancy and birth and first few years, if they breastfed, when they crawled, when they started to walk and talk, about preschool, if they stayed at home or if they went straight into a little preschool. All that information is really important, because we have already some of the keys to what we need in order to teach their child. So like having questionnaires, having newsletters where you can, ask parents things and exchange information. So we need to ask them questions. What steps can I take to help parents support their child's learning and development? Well, one of the things we have here in my school, and I'm adding to it all the time, is like a file with articles and things I've read in books, links that I can send by email about childhood development, about eating, about sleeping, about learning, about English. And the more information I can share with parents, the more I can hopefully entice them into a better way of seeing the education for their child. And parents do need a lot of support, especially these days. They don't usually read a lot about childhood development, so they have a lot of questions and doubts. One of the things we know about most parents is they have a deep, deep love for their children. And they we're not asking them to be perfect parents, but if we start from that deep love that they have for their children, then we need to build on that and to give them tools to help them and to help us do a really good job with our teaching. What resources do I have that I can share with parents? Well, I can share a lot of things. Apart from links, I can share songs that we're singing. I can share the audios. I can give them the lyrics. If we're working with cooking, I can share the recipe with the things that the students are planting. I can send those plants home. They can take some marjoram to put on the pizza at home. They can take some dried tea. Then we can, the homework that the students take as well, we can improve on that and try and include some of the parents to answer questions and to get involved in our students' homework tasks in some way. So there's plenty of resources, I think, that we have that we can share, even if it's like making mini flashcards or story cards for children to take home and to use with their brothers, sisters, mums and dads. And then things we can do in our schools, and these are very important. Let me just have a quick. We need to make parents feel welcome and valued, okay? They do have busy lives, but we need to make them know that we see them and we see their difficulties and we support them. And what's a really lovely thing as well that I've done and I've seen in some schools, where parents come in to watch a presentation, and then, for example, there's like a tea party afterwards. You get to see, you introduce parents to other parents, and then when you build that up, you get to see that parents help each other as well, not just the teachers and the school to the parents. So schools can act as a focal point for communities to come together and to learn from one another, to help each other, to give tips, etc. Another thing, I think it's really important if you are like organizing some sort of advertising for your school, is to try and show the real moments that reflect the essence of what you're doing, rather than kind of set images or set expressions. I think it's the more you show what you're really doing in the classroom, I think the more interesting it is for new families to want to come and visit you. And so to finish with, I just wanted to tell you a little story. Okay. Put a little bit of music on in the background. So I'm going to tell you the story about one of the students in this picture. Very, very special girl, very smart, but very challenging for me as a teacher. And I think I have learned some of the best lessons of being a teacher from the most difficult, if you like, the most challenging, smart students that I've had. And so this particular student, it was my birthday. She's older here now, but when she gave it to me, she was like first, second grader. She came running up to me in the playground one day and she said, "Oh, this is for you, teacher. Happy birthday for a special teacher. You is a very, very important in my life." And that was just so lovely because, it was a student who was saying to me, "Look, I can see that you are looking at me and I can see that you are trying to help me and I'm with you in this." And I didn't care about the mistake of the verb to be, that was always in second plane. And so if you can hear this music, I was sending her a text message just the other day to ask her if she could remember this piece of music that we used to play in our classroom. And I was asking her for the link. And she sent me the link of the music. And we chatted for a little bit. And I said, "Oh, I'm going to use your little birthday card in one of my talks. Is that okay?" And she said, yes, which one? I said, "Oh, the birthday one where you said you is a very, very important in my life." And she said, "You is, oh, I can't believe I made that funny mistake." And I said, "Well, that's all part of learning." And then 2 minutes later, she sends me this. So I think when we're teaching children and we care about them, just, there's no price to that. So sorry for getting emotional, but I think if you're going to teach young learners and teens, just remember, to want more for them and to love what you do. Here is the book list. And I think that's it in a nutshell. And let's see if we've got some wonderful questions to answer.
Thank you very much, Lucy. That was great.
Thank you.
Is there something in my eye? Maybe there is.
Sorry. I think it was the music, and it always does that, doesn't it, a little bit? But, we're all human, aren't we? So.
No, we are. And I think presentations like yours remind us of what is really important and why we chose this career. Because we really want these connections. We really don't care about the verb to be or the indefinite article. This is really what matters to at least most of us, I would say.
Nice.
So thanks for sharing that to us. That was really special.
It's a pleasure.
So Batch is here saying in the YouTube comment section, these are so rewarding moments Sil also said, deep from the heart, Lucy, fantastic.
Oh, thank you, Bertie. Thank you.
Yeah, so lots of great comments here. So if you could stop sharing your screen so we can see you again.
Sure.
I mean, if there isn't anything in your eye. But if there is, that's okay.
Can you see me now?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. Yes, good.
Joyce just said, "Wow, Lucy, amazing talk. I can feel. In fact, I've seen this since I met you back in 2010. How passionate you are in what you do. Congrats! I'm a huge fan of your work." So
love to you, Joyce. Joyce is a great educator too. Thank you.
She is. She's also really passionate about teaching children. She does an amazing work.
Yeah,
at the public school.
I get so happy to know that there are so many good professionals here in Brazil. You know, don't leave the country. Stay here. Stay here, you good people. You know, there's much work to be done here, apart from all the challenges we have.
Yeah, there is. There certainly is, and lots of amazing seeds. And I think these pictures of the children you chose, this is the generation that I truly believe is going to change the world. Not our generation anymore, unfortunately. But I really have a lot of faith in them.
Definitely, and even the ones who have like a really difficult background, you know, who seems, you know, it seems when all the odds are against them, if you just have one teacher who believes in them, it can, you know, it can mean a, you know, make or break situation. Just need one person, to build piece by piece. Yeah,
that's true. We have a question here. From Johanna. She's asking, because you talked a lot about keeping the family involved, the parents involved, and she's asking if you've ever had students coming from non-traditional families, like students who didn't have like a father and mother, but maybe had a grandfather or a grandmother, or maybe two mothers, and how that works.
I have. I've had a student with two mums, two wonderful, loving mums. With two adopted children. So everything that we did, for example, we did do a Mother's Day activity. I tend to want to broaden those kind of activities to family, because I also have one of my students, his mum has died as well. So I think that's why we need to know a lot about our students, because we can't, you know, make any mistakes there. Yeah. So I like, you know, I embrace all my school community and all their different family makeups. We have another student who is a bolsista as well, who's from the village. And he's just doing amazingly, you know, against all the odds. So it is about having a supportive, you know, a supportive school environment. I think when we're going to do any activities that involve the families, whether it's a homework task or it's a presentation in our school, think very carefully about the underlying things that it's saying, and also think carefully how you can bring the important people. Yeah, because often the students who are challenging us, it's because the parents are absent. And so how do we do that? I think what I've done in the past, I've sent them individual special invitations rather than just a general email. Yeah. And you know what? If I have to go to their house and knock on the door or put the special invitation through the letterbox, I might just do it. Yeah, because I need them to be with me in this journey with their child.
Yeah, we so do, and I believe that sometimes, especially in the big cities, there is really something like this us versus them thing. Of the children are not difficult. You've heard probably this a million times. The children are not difficult. The parents are the difficult ones.
Mm.
And while I believe it's true to some extent, in the end, it doesn't do us any favor, any good, right?
No.
To think that way.
Yeah, and I think if the parents in some way know that the school is is trying to support them, or at least accept their reality, then there will be less animosity, I think. And we have to teach them that we are working together, and you can also come into the school to praise us, not just when there's a problem. Come in and praise us, praise and work together. And when there is a problem, let's talk it out in a mature way. Let's try and find, and it might mean sometimes, and it's happened to me, that we have to bow down. Yes, I didn't think that through. I'm very sorry about that. You are right. Let's see how we can work to make that better. Being humble a little bit too, right? Yes. Mm-hmm. We don't know everything. Yeah, sure. We study education, but we're still learning too. So.
Yes, definitely. And yes. What I thought was really good is that you seem to involve the parents a lot and teach them also what the school expects from them, so you get them to get to know a little bit more about the agenda of the school and everything.
Yeah, and there's one more point that I didn't mention. It's very sad when educational schools become commercial, commercial places. Commercial part, the money part, is very complicated when it is connected to education.
It is.
Like I'm buying a product and I want the result of that. That has to change. That's very damaging for the students that we teach. And so we need much more dialogue, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe that's a big lesson for us, especially living in the bigger cities where people do have this mindset, and it is very difficult to work with that mindset. Yeah. They're buying a product, and they're the client, and the client is always right. I don't know who invented that.
Yes. It's true. It's true.
We have a question from Seal. She says, use flexible classrooms. Does that really work?
Yeah, well, this is a good point, because the thing about flexible classrooms is that you have to, as a teacher, plan it out really carefully before your students arrive. And that might not be possible in some classrooms, right? In big schools where you've got 35, 40 students in the classroom. The students are already in that room and the teacher comes into it. So that becomes a challenge. But for example, one thing we do with our students, we've got a group of teens who they're much better now, but they just used to talk all the time. So it was very difficult for the teacher to stand at the blackboard and talk about a grammar point or something. So this teacher, very brilliant teacher, she invented this thing called Mission of the Day. So Mission of the Day would have a list of things that she wanted to do that were connected to the course book. She would have groups of students, let's say groups of 5 or bigger. Each group would get the mission of the day and would have to follow the list of things, while the teacher would walk around the classroom giving individual attention to those who couldn't work autonomously. Now, it took a while, but it was a perfect way of being able to work with the material that we had, to use the students' intelligence and autonomy to be able to get down to work, but at the same time filter around the classroom, giving individual attention. And so obviously with the groups who found it more difficult to focus, then the teacher would stay closer to that group. But it was a very interesting way to have kind of learning stations, as it were. And it has been possible. I hope that's helped to answer the question a little bit.
Yes, fantastic. Joyce is asking us about your moments with the teachers at the Secret Garden. How are these moments? How often do you get together to share?
Well, actually, Thursday, we usually have one bigger teachers' meeting a month, which is a whole afternoon or a whole morning. But we also, every day when we're in the Secret Garden, the teachers come 15 minutes before the students, so we have a chance to get together and, to think about what we're going to do. We get together on the same page. We stand by the gate as well, waiting for the students to arrive. And then halfway through the afternoon, we also have a 15 to 20-minute break where we can relax and sit down and exchange information. In the first half of our class on a Monday, we have a circle time as well, where all the teachers and even our wonderful admin lady joins the circle, where we have circle time songs, we have little chats and debates, and we play a lot of games. So we do work quite a lot as a team during class time. We prepare the snack break together. So we've got somebody making juice, somebody cutting carrots, somebody chopping up pieces of apple, all the teachers together. And then after the snack break, the students have to do the cleaning of the school, washing dishes. So everything is very together. I mean, I'm very lucky with my school and my teaching situation, but I've built it up as well, thinking about how to work together and, with life skills and with our community idea.
That sounds wonderful. And I imagine that, I mean, right now it probably works very well. Everyone is used to that routine, but I imagine that at the beginning it was very hard because it's such a different paradigm to work with.
Yes, but quite a lot of the teachers that we have that come to, well, we've got a very small team, really. We're just usually 5 or 6 of us. And so a lot of the teachers that come to teach here do have a notion of Waldorf education, for example, which is very community-based, and it really does involve, the whole child, and also the values of life, what good values we need to teach our students, whether it's through English or through German or through history or through science. Yeah, that's inherent. So it's about the way we speak to our students, our gestures. It's in every little tiny thing.
I see. And just mentioned Waldorf, so you don't use books at your school?
No, we do use books.
Ah.
Yeah. Yeah, I really love Waldorf, but I also have a wider approach to the way we work here at the Secret Garden. So there are other methodologies that we find really constructive to the work that we do here. So, but the students we get from Waldorf Education are really, they already come with arts and music, and they also come with a sense of teamwork, a sense of, they don't come into the Secret Garden and like break off leaves or pull bark off trees. They already know, how to take care of their environment. So it's a different way. Yeah.
I see. Lots of compliments here in the chat box.
Mm.
Beth says, I cannot have a flexible classroom, but I have tried study stations. I think that has probably worked for her. Joyce is saying fantastic. So Lucy, thank you so much for. Oh, we have a last minute question.
Oh, okay.
I mean, we could spend the whole morning here because there's so much to talk about. But the last question of the day is, how do you combine the use of course books and other activities? Very good question.
Yeah, excellent question, because there's, an itching debate about, and I write course books, but there's an itching debate about how much we need course books and how useful they really are to us. So because my teaching reality is a whole afternoon, so it's 4 hours. So in the first half, we use course books as a means of having and following a syllabus, if you like, like we have a circle of learning, which gets bigger and bigger and wider each year. But in the second half of our afternoon, we work with project-based learning. So we try to, for example, let's say the students are learning something about food in their course book. So we will take them to the local shop. So they'll have a shopping list in English. They'll have to find out the prices of something. So a lot of the things that you could have in your course book, if you have time for project work, you can connect the two together. But yeah, I find that I want more time for projects and less for course books as time goes on. But yeah, work in progress, I think. But a very good question. Thank you for that.
Yes, very good indeed. And so, Lucy, thank you so much again for taking the time of your Saturday to be here with us. For everybody watching us, remember that the certificate is going to be, the site is open already, so just go to, let me share my screen here with you. No, I don't think that's going to help. So let me just paste the link in the YouTube chat. The address is, so the address is bit.ly, ly is ly, slash BrELT YLT Week 2018 certificate. So bit.ly slash BrELT YLT Week 2018 certificate. Brilliant. So Lucy, again, thank you so much.
Tiago and BrELT, thank you very much. Thank you for the lovely teachers who commented and asked questions. I'm deeply grateful. Have a lovely weekend and a successful end of year. Hope to see everybody soon.
Thank you. And at 4, we have more things going on, and at 5 as well. And maybe we're going to have something at 7. So we'll keep you posted. Thank you, Lucy. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Lots of love. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.